Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Home Video Library. I'm your host, Nathan P. Butler, the author of A Saga on Home Video, a fan's guide to U.S. Star Wars home video releases, which you can find on Amazon.com right now. This time we're taking a look at another of the famous Star Wars parodies, if you want to put it that way, that actually fit the definition that I've laid out for which parodies will be able to be found in future versions of the book, and which parodies sort of fit an expanded core theme for this show, although I will eventually, maybe as a side series or something, deal with other things like, say, George Lucas in Love or Thumb Wars that don't really quite fit that definition either. But I'll let you know when that happens. The definition I've laid out is basically that if a Star Wars parody actually received an official nod from Lucas or Lucasfilm during production, not after release of them just saying, hey, that was kind of cool, but during production, then we'll count it. We did it with Phineas and Ferb. We've now also done that with the Robot Chicken Star Wars specials, and we've looked at Fanboys. Now we begin a multi-episode arc, so to speak, of this series, because, my God, there's a lot of releases for this particular series, looking at the Family Guy Star Wars spoofs. Now, I've gone on record on this show about them. I don't want to do necessarily a huge review of what the specials were, so much as just kind of a quick overview. So I'm not going to inundate you with my thoughts on why these, a lot of times, just really don't work for me. I'm a huge fan of the Robot Chicken ones, find them hilariously funny. Not so much a lot of times with Family Guy. And I think what happened is that the approaches being so different are what made all the difference. Family Guy tries to basically tell the story of A New Hope and The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi as stories within Family Guy. It's basically the power goes out, and Peter Griffin, the dad, if you've never seen Family Guy, Peter Griffin, the dad, starts telling the stories of the Star Wars films. And if power goes out 3 times, you wind up with 3 different stories eventually being told. So they're essentially trying to do a Family Guy-style humorous take on each film, and yet still tell the story of the films. And in the process, shoehorn in, whether they fit really or not, different characters from Family Guy into those roles. Like Peter Griffin being Han Solo, his son being Luke Skywalker, and so on and so on and so on. Everybody but Meg really gets a role. Meg, the daughter, winds up basically being there briefly, like she's the Sarlacc in the one for Return of the Jedi, and that's it. She barely gets any kind of a screen time there, which I guess is an inside joke or something with the series. A series, by the way, by Seth MacFarlane, who also just recently launched the comedy/sci-fi series called The Orville, that in some cases is more Trek than some recent Trek tends to be. But it's one of these shows that didn't really have a lot of freedom. They could do a lot with comedic elements of telling the story, but they were still telling the story. And they still had these characters that they were building in, and they were building in the personality traits of the characters or their mannerisms from Family Guy into how they were portraying the Star Wars characters in those parodies. And that sort of put them in a box in terms of what they could do. Whereas with Robot Chicken, it was all sort of inspired by Star Wars. They were short little bits that could be a matter of minutes, could be a matter of seconds, just little skits. And they weren't trying to tell the stories of the films. They were goofy, quick little things like Admiral Akbar's cereal commercial and stuff like that. Or Ponda Baba's Big Day, where it turns out Ponda Baba is an architect. And, well, when he got his arm cut off, there goes the promotion and everything, because he can't continue to do his job if he can't draw as an architect, and so on and so on. So in that sense, they had a lot more freedom than the Family Guy team did, which, by the way, actually includes Seth Green from Robot Chicken. The Robot Chicken creator is the voice of Chris Griffin, the son, on Family Guy. So there is a connection between those two specials, and they both kind of went about things in a similar way behind the scenes, if not in the actual production, which was that they went and asked Lucasfilm if they could do it, and they got the permission. In the case of Family Guy, they kept doing these little skits, these little bits built into episodes of Family Guy that were about Star Wars, and since they're owned by Fox, and 20th Century Fox has the license for the Star Wars films, it was sort of one of those, wait a second. And what basically happened, according to Seth MacFarlane, is that they were told, hey, you probably ought to be asking them permission when you do these bits. So they would send it over and get an immediate, yeah, that's fine, go for it, type of thing. And because they kept getting that type of yes, there was finally this inspiration of, well, why don't we do a whole episode based on Star Wars? And got the permission to do so, and so it goes. I don't know that they premiered there. I think they premiered at Skywalker Ranch as well, but there was a point at which even Seth MacFarlane got a chance to interview George Lucas and talk about the specials and talk about the creation of the film, and quiz George Lucas on some of the John Williams music from his own films, which he got entirely wrong. But that's a whole different thing. So, another of these things that got the nod in the process, and I think what gets me, it's because of that format, and I'm not as familiar with the Family Guy characters. Maybe if I was, I'd be more into it. But there are some of the characters that I love to see. You know, Stewie, awesome. Stewie, little big-headed baby, awesome. But then you have other elements, for instance, and this is something that wound up killing it for some friends of mine as well. When the humor goes into crass areas, it doesn't usually do so in context. When we looked at Fanboys, I mentioned that one of the things that I think about when I think of the Family Guy specials in relation to Star Wars and their approach is think of what I think of as the Kevin Smith scale. Again, you have Clerks, Mallrats, Chasing Amy, Dogma, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and Clerks 2. All of which have some balance between social commentary, thinking man stuff, or thinking person stuff, things that have sort of a social commentary, satirical aspect to them that kind of tug at the human experience. And then you have the funny, most of which is funny in a way that goes towards, as Kevin Smith would say of his own films, dick and fart jokes, and so forth. Crass, really, really dirty humor much of the time. Lots of swearing and stuff like that as well to go with it. So sort of the adult humor content versus the sort of social message and trying to relate to the experience of everyday people type of message. A balance between the two. And so that each film is a little bit different in terms of that kind of balance. With Clerks, it tends to have a little bit of social satire to go along with its funny and its adult humor and such. Mallrats, less social commentary, less of a message, less trying to link to the audience and their experience, and more of just the humor for an adventurous little film. Chasing Amy goes more toward the social side. Dogma goes pretty extreme in both directions, but has some really deep, intricate, if you actually look at the nuances of it, social satire commentary on the Catholic Church, among other types of organized religion. Then you have Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back to get rid of pretty much any attempt at social satire and just go straight up dirty humor throughout the entire thing. I mean, Mark Hamill's in it as the villain called Cockknocker. I mean, not sure how much further you could get than that. And then you got Clerks 2. It goes back to some of the social commentary style of the first Clerks, but it's still overly heavy, compared to the first one at least, more tilted towards that adult humor rather than the social aspect of it. So they all have a different balance to it. And I would say that if anything, if Fanboys was sort of more of a Mallrats style, where it was the crude aspects of it, not overblown, but more the crude humor than trying to give us any kind of actual message or anything like that, I would say that the Family Guy specials are much more Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. They're just telling a story as the backbone of throwing a whole lot of adult humor at you on a show that is theoretically a television show on network TV that happens to have more free reign because of eventual home video releases. Or in the case of the second and third of these, a home video release before a censored TV version got aired. It's much more that kind of humor than it is what you would see with sort of a Dogma or a Chasing Amy or a Clerks. So, if that's your thing, you'll probably enjoy them. Me, not as much, because that's not really what I'm looking for when I look for my Star Wars humor. So you have some pretty crass stuff, whereas Robot Chicken actually tends to get more of a laugh because they beep out when they swear, which kind of becomes a funny beep fest. Family Guy specials do not, at least on home video, so they're dropping F-bombs and things like that just as part of the dialogue. So for some, that's off-putting. But for me, it was like they were being crass without being funny much of the time. The first one is definitely the best of the three, the funniest of the three. By the time you get to the third one, it seems like they're sort of running out of juice, and they even say that basically in the opening crawl, that they did it because they were told you need to finish out a trilogy because you already made the other two. But as you get to the second one, it's like they're being crass without necessarily trying to be as funny with it. Like, I love you, F off. That's supposed to be funny because he said F off. He dropped an F-bomb instead of saying I know. That's funny because he dropped the F-bomb, right? Well, yeah, maybe if you're in freaking middle school or something. Now, to its credit, there's a couple things that really did stick with me in a positive way. I love all their space scenes and such. When they do ships and whatnot, their CGI for the animation is absolutely gorgeous. I'd love to see a Star Wars TV series done with that style of artwork. At the same time, when they did have some particularly funny moments, those moments tended to stick with me and be stuff that I would wind up using in conversation, making references to it the same way I'd make references to Star Wars. For instance, in A New Hope, right, you've got the TIE Fighters coming after the Millennium Falcon. You've got Luke yelling back, I got him, to which Han Solo says, great kid, don't get cocky. Well, in the Family Guy special, it's great kid, don't get penisy. I say that all the time, thanks to the special. There's also plenty of good-natured banter relating to the fact that Robot Chicken had just done a Star Wars special themselves, because again, Seth Green is on the show as Chris. So we got some good banter between Peter and Chris at the end of the episode, mocking Robot Chicken, essentially, with those two arguing about it. That is a running gag that will show up again in the later specials. Now, one thing that is really cool about this, aside from the ships and everything and the few things that really stuck with me, is that they do actually a lot of times get people who are big-name Hollywood people or big-name media people to actually portray themselves on the episode. So while, for instance, Carrie Fisher's not playing Leia, we'll hear Carrie Fisher's voice points throughout the specials. We actually hear Rush Limbaugh show up as himself, which is kind of surprising to me. And when Chevy Chase and the family from National Lampoon's Vacation show up briefly, it's weird, you'd have to see it to see what I mean about their appearance, but when they appear, it's actually Chevy Chase! So there were elements that stuck with me. But what finally sort of was the last straw for some people that I know who are fans, and it just made me sort of say, what were they thinking, is their handling of Obi-Wan. There is a character on Family Guy called Herbert. He is known as Herbert the Pervert. Herbert the Pervert is basically, I don't know if you count as a pedophile if you haven't actually done it, but you've been obsessed with it mentally. Does that still count as a pedophile? Essentially, he is a gay pedophile who is constantly trying to seduce or co-opt or groom, depending on the terminology you want to use, Chris Griffin, the son. And apparently that's the case in the regular series. So here, Obi-Wan is constantly trying to hook up for some gay pedophilia with Chris throughout, to the point where there is a Time of Our Lives, Dirty Dancing-esque musical number in A New Hope, and basically a bunch of jokes that are fairly off-color about child molestation. For some, that's just, politically incorrect humor, it's shock value, go for it. And I can see that that's where they were going for it. I don't think they were trying to do it in a way that was going to cause people to be offended. At least not be offended and not watch. But for some in the audience, this crossed a line, especially those who were coming into this because it was Star Wars, who had little knowledge of Family Guy, rather than being Family Guy fans who just happened to be seeing a Star Wars special of a show that they liked. So it's a mixed bag. I would say that if you're trying to dip into this era's Star Wars parodies, check out the Robot Chicken ones first. These are worth checking out. I would not necessarily advise watching it with kids, at least not the first time, so you kind of know what's coming in that sense. So, having said that, that's my big picture thing when it comes to this, sort of the overview of it, but also why, for me, these don't work nearly as well as the Robot Chicken stuff did. But what they basically did, again, was they took the films and remade them for Family Guy from beginning to end. Not necessarily every scene, but the whole story of the films encapsulated in these Family Guy specials. A lot of weird humor. Another one that sticks with me is they're going into the Battle of Yavin, and it's, a Red 5 standing by, Red 10 standing by, Red 2 standing by, and here it's like, Red Fox standing by, Big Red standing by, Simply Red standing by, and stuff like that. That, to me, is funny, but not so much with the Obi-Wan thing. Sorry, when he's fighting Darth Vader and Chris shows up and it's what finally gets his lightsaber to brrr instead of being all limp. I don't know if you want to go there with Star Wars. But Lucas apparently thought it was funny, so, hey, who am I to say what's funny for Star Wars or what should be in a Star Wars parody? Anyway, so, what we had was that essentially on September 23rd, 2007, in Season 6, actually the season premiere of Season 6 for Family Guy, they aired the first of these specials as a double-length episode. And it was called Family Guy Presents Blue Harvest. Blue Harvest, of course, being the working name for Return of the Jedi back when it was being made. And it aired on television on Fox, eventually made its way to DVD for the first time, at least, on January 15, 2008. And when it did so kind of making a splash with a couple of different versions of it. Now, there are more versions than this. What we're going to do is, in this episode, focus on the first special. In the next episode, focus on the second. Next episode after that, focus on the third. And then focus on any collected versions that we get in the fourth episode of this sort of mini arc of episodes here. So the original release on DVD is just this. Family Guy Blue Harvest. Front of it looks like a parody, of course, of the A New Hope poster. Side, 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment, Family Guy Presents Blue Harvest. DVD symbol down there. Your back, and this one comes out of a box set, so it's got the little sticker over the barcode here. But there's a barcode normally up at the top. You have your information about the special, picture, information about special features and whatnot. All there on your packaging. As for the disc itself, you pop that sucker open, and there is your disc. Essentially the same artwork, Family Guy Presents Blue Harvest. You get your copyright, FBI warning stuff there, your 20th Century Fox logo, your DVD logo, your legalese. But there's your film there on DVD. Now this one included, among its special features, an audio commentary with Seth MacFarlane, a conversation with Star Wars creator George Lucas, where they actually had Seth MacFarlane sitting down and interviewing George Lucas. Once in a Lifetime, The Making of Blue Harvest, which is a featurette about the making of the special as a whole. An animatic version of Blue Harvest. And then a Family Guy Star Wars clip show. It's basically just a run-through of a bunch of clips of different instances of Star Wars being used in the Family Guy TV show during its regular episodes. I would say, by the way, that that's what got me to actually understand the title of the second one of these. The Empire Strikes Back one is called Something 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 Dark Side. Okay. Turns out it's based on a joke from the regular run of Family Guy, which I'll explain when we get to that one in the next episode. Then you also have, of course, as I mentioned, the audio uncensored, so the F-bombs and such are there in their full glory, I guess is what you'd call it. But as the TV announcer said, that's not all. You also saw, at the time, a special edition release of this. Not a special edition in the sense of added footage or anything, but a special edition in terms of a lot of cool new goodies in sort of an advanced style of packaging. You may be familiar with this 2005 family set, trilogy pack, of the original trilogy on DVD, and this particular cover art. You may also be familiar with this set from 2004, which, while having different art, has the Death Star on the one side and your titles on the other, but the Death Star here being the important one. Well, for Family Guy Blue Harvest, we got this special edition that essentially blends the styles of both of those covers. We have Family Guy Blue Harvest, similar art there to the regular release, but it's on a giant box here. The side of what pulls out, Family Guy Presents Blue Harvest, the Death Star, same thing on the other side with the DVD logo and 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment logos. The top, just legalese on the bottom. Okay. And it does pull out of the slipcover. And underneath, it's essentially the same art on both sides, as was the case with the outer bit. Of course, this end is going to fold, so there's no Death Star on this end, but it folds out and reveals quite a bit of exclusive content. So we open it up. First fold. Alright, so we got 3 images from the special. Like I said, Meg always gets the short end of the stick and winds up being a creature of some kind. So here she is as a Dianoga. And then each side folds out one more time. Let me step back and stand up for this, and hopefully it won't all fall on me. Showing even more on the inside. We'll take a look at this in a little more detail once I've emptied it and shown you all these cool contents. First, you have what looks like it's the regular version of Family Guy Blue Harvest, right? Well, okay then. pretty much the same. Sweet. But then you start looking at the detail. One, there's no barcode. But also here under special features, it notes that there are some special features that are different. Audio commentary? Yes. Conversation with Lucas? Yes. Once in a lifetime? Yes. Animatic? Yes. Family Guy Star Wars Clip Show? Yes. Uncensored audio track? Yes. The Blue Harvest fight scene in 3D. Yes, you can watch the ending of the film in either 3D or 2D just on this version of the special. Otherwise, the packaging is identical there. You pop it open. This one comes with a digital copy. So inside, you got things that are a little bit different. You've got your first disc that instead of just being the art from the outside of the packaging, it's Peter Griffin as Han Solo, as disc 1. Then disc 2 is a physical disc to give you a digital copy that you unlock off the disc, like they did with the Clone Wars film in 2008, which is this. This version of Leia and R2-D2. It says digital copy up there with a big D symbol. You got some advertising flyer type stuff, and then your instructions on how to redeem this unusual way of doing a digital copy, which back then was the main way of doing a digital copy. I won't read it all, but it says, "This is freaking sweet," up at the top, and then talks about how to transfer it with all your info on either side of this thing. Along with that, inside you got the art of Family Guy Blue Harvest, because of course there were art books for the Star Wars film. It says, "From Pencil to Prime Time, Reimagining an Empire." And it's all kinds of stuff. It's concept art, it's production art, character designs, all kinds of stuff in here. Back of it says, and this is written by Peter Griffin, supposedly, it says, "A long time ago, in an office building in Los Angeles, Seth MacFarlane and the writers of Family Guy created Blue Harvest, a special full-hour tribute to the greatest film ever made, Star Wars, as seen through the eyes of the greatest man who ever lived, me, Peter Griffin. The art of Family Guy Blue Harvest is a small collection of images chosen from thousands that were generated for the production. For the artists involved, it was a childhood dream come true. Thank you, George Lucas, for being frickin' sweet. Lovingly yours, Peter Griffin." Then, in a tribute to the original Star Wars trading cards, we have a set of trading cards, which even connect to form, that's right, an image on the back. Okay. So it's stuff like, "Hey, Darth Vader's going to be here. Should we maybe clean up a place?" "No, it's okay. He won't mind." Right? So it's done in the same style. It could be worse. It's worse with the Meg, Dianoga, and so forth. There are, by the way, 12 of these cards in the set. And yes, it is a set. You don't have to buy multiple ones to get all the different cards from different releases, unlike LEGO Star Wars Droid Tales. You also, because you can watch the ending in 3D on that edition, have a pair of 3D glasses. Right, set up there. Looking kind of neat. Vader-esque. Family Guy Blue Harvest on either of the, what do you call them, arms, whatever. And then each one came with an extra large t-shirt. Now this one's still inside the packaging. I actually do have a loose one I'm going to show you here. The Family Guy Blue Harvest size XL. From all I've seen, they're all XL. Nice there in shrink wrap. The actual t-shirt looks like this. Ta-da! Nice. So big it would swallow me whole, but nice. Now that it's empty, now we can take a look at that packaging. You have sort of a cool design in the background here, but then you've got Peter Griffin up there, Stewie, Lois up there at the top, different scenes, the hologram scene, Vader's entry, and training aboard the Millennium Falcon. All shots from the special. If you're curious, this is actually what the back looked like if you bought it at the time, because it would have just been adhered with the little sticky adhesive stuff, that gel kind of stuff, onto the back of it, kind of rubber cement type stuff. But it's all essentially a setup here. But it does have information on here that's said in a way that's different than it is on the actual packaging for the regular version. So it says, "A wickedly funny spoof, Associated Press. Luke out! Wah, wah. Luke out! This Super Deluxe Special Edition of Blue Harvest comes with special features and exclusive collectibles not available anywhere else in the galaxy. The laughs come full force in quotation marks and capitalized, when the Griffin clan puts a frickin' sweet spin. Okay, I'm done with frickin' sweet. Can we be done with that now? A frickin' sweet spin on the greatest sci-fi saga ever told, filled with outrageous gags, spaced-out droids, and more intergalactic satire than you can shake a lightsaber at. This epic spoof is a must-own for every fan of Family Guy. Well, okay then. And notes the special features there, same stuff that I mentioned before. It says, victory, and all of this stuff shall be yours. Has a nice product image. It says, includes Blue Harvest Collector's T-shirt, the Art of Blue Harvest 20-page collector's booklet, limited edition trading cards, and 3D glasses. Contains language not suitable for all ages. Parental discretion is advised. Oh yeah, no kidding. Now, between that initial release on DVD in 2008, there was sort of a mild hiccup of a couple other releases in 2009 that aren't usually remembered when it comes to this Family Guy special. The two releases that I've found, at least, that are dated 2009 instead of 2008 are a little odd. One is this. Another DVD version. The back is set up very differently here. All the text squished up, all the special feature stuff squished up, and then instructions on how this is going to give you the ability to insert a disc and get a digital copy through iTunes. Unfortunately, mine's got a little bit of a tear in it because of just the way that the package is designed underneath. It's just empty space right there. Then it says, contains language not suitable, blah, 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 like we said a moment ago. All the information about the release, but a very different looking back as far as the layout, if not the actual images used. Your spine, very different here. 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment, Family Guy presents Blue Harvest, featuring digital copy that's there as big as the friggin' title is, with DVD there. Of course, on the front, it says 2-disc set, DVD and digital copy up there at the top as well. When you pop it open, the first disc is actually, as I'm turning it here, essentially the same disc that we got in the regular release the first time around, except now it says disc 1 instead of not saying a disc number because it was the only one in that package. And then, now we've got something similar repeated here as disc 2, but not labeled as disc 2, that now has the digital copy branding going across underneath the whole. So, there's a lot of different labels being used for this release early on. Usually they just reuse the same ones over and over again, but just like the Clone Wars film, lots of label changing happening between releases. And then, of course, you have your little sheet that tells you how to get the digital copy, and that is the same as what is in the regular release, or the special edition release with the digital copy from 2008, the year before. This also has the distinction of being one of the only, if not the only, Star Wars-related video products, as opposed to video games, in the U.S. to be released on UMD, Universal Media Disc, to be played on a PlayStation portable video game system. We saw this with a UK release for the Clone Wars film, but there wasn't one in the US to accompany it. Family Guy Presents Blue Harvest did get one. So again, a similar cover there. It says at the top, UMD Video, PSP, there's a PlayStation symbol up there. The back, no bonus features at all for this. So the back just says, if you think you know Family Guy, you don't know Sith. Then your typical description of it here, limited imagery. Nothing about bonus features because it doesn't have any. Then down below, all region. So you could play this in other countries. 20th Century Fox. I love the fact that it says, this is for, this blows my mind. G, general audiences. So either this is the censored one from TV, because I don't have one to play it on, so I can't check it. Either this is a censored one from TV, or they just basically said, yeah, go ahead, show this to kids. The child molester thing, the F-bombs and stuff, all that humor that they're going to be asking, Mommy, what does that mean? That you're going to feel uncomfortable answering. Don't worry about it. It's rated G. G for gotcha. As for the actual contents, very, very basic here. Pop that sucker open. No inserts or anything. You just have your UMD caddy here. A black disc with Family Guy Presents Blue Harvest up there at the top. Standard old UMD. Now this special hit Blu-ray for the first time on December 21st, 2010, but that was as part of the Laugh It Up Fuzzball trilogy set, not as an individual release. We're going to look at that in our 4th episode on these Family Guy releases. Instead, let's take a look at when it was finally released individually on Blu-ray, which was a full 2 years later on August 7, 2012. That was this. Blu-ray, Blu-ray symbol, digital copy. Family Guy presents Blue Harvest. Again, similar cover art there. Blu-ray symbol, experience the dark side of Blu-ray. You mean you're supposed to put it in with the label down instead of the shiny side? Oh, wait. No, play on words. If you know Family Guy, you don't know Sith, same kind of thing here. Your text about it once again. 2-disc set contains disc 1, Blu-ray. Then it has Family Guy presents Blue Harvest in high definition. Audio commentary by Family Guy creator Seth MacFarlane and Blue Harvest director, producers, writers, and editors. A conversation with Star Wars creator George Lucas, once in a lifetime, the making of Blue Harvest featurette, animatic version of Blue Harvest, Family Guy Star Wars clip show, uncensored audio track. In other words, everything you found on the original release on DVD, but not that 3D ability that you got in the special edition back then. There are 3D Blu-rays. Regular Blu-rays don't work as 3D. Maybe it could have worked in the same way, but that would have just confused the heck out of people, so not included here. And of course, a content warning and disc 2 digital copy. Worked with iTunes, which gives you that symbol to remind you about the digital copy being included, along with all your specifications and whatnot. You open it up. You have your slip for the digital copy. Information on the front, nothing on the back. We have a label for disc 1 that is similar to what we saw on some of the previous ones. Family Guy Blue Harvest, now with that Blu-ray ribbon down there across the bottom. And then we have a digital copy again, similar to what we saw before, with our Lois and R2-D2, or Leia and R2-D2. Now I would point out, though, that there is an extra that's not on the disc, so it's not actually promoted on the back of it, but it is still available at this point. If you put the Blu-ray in and go all the way past the extras option on the menu to live extras, the ones that are streaming, essentially, there is a little featurette there called Exclusive, Droid Duo, The Best Parts. That is not found on the DVD. It is a Blu-ray exclusive, or a streaming exclusive that you can get to through the Blu-ray, however you want to put that. As if I need saying it, Blu-ray is definitely the way to go with this. Looks great, sounds great, especially those ship scenes that I find so fascinating. So what we have here is a special that's not going to be for everyone, but for those who are interested in it, there's actually several different ways that you could wind up picking it up. The most cost-efficient now is probably getting the trilogy set, which we'll cover in episode 4 of this particular mini-series, or whatever you want to call it here, this arc of episodes. But that was only the first step of Family Guy into Star Wars specials. We still have 2 to go, plus those box sets, in our next 3 episodes. Next time we check out Something, Something, Something Dark Side, figure out why the heck it's called that, as we look at the second Family Guy Star Wars special. With that, we'll wrap up this episode. Thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the home video viewers.